What's up guys, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys tips and tricks on how to become a better shotgun farmer. The first half of this video is going to be general basic tips, how to get you playing better in public games, while the second half is going to be advanced tips for decent players trying to get better competitively. Let's get started and make sure to subscribe and like the video. Basic tip number 1, the most basic tip of all, run with your shovel out. I'm sure you've noticed just by playing the game that holding a gun like the Crockett or the LMG makes you run much slower than if you just run with your shovel out. Something every player does if they're at all familiar with the game is run with their shovel out if they're not using their gun. As you can see, running around with something like a shotgun or a Crockett makes you run much slower and makes you get hit easier. By running around with your shovel and then switching to your gun when you need it, you can get around the map much quicker. Tip number 2 is that you don't always have to aim. Obviously, with guns like the Snipergus or the bead action rifle, it's definitely better to aim when you fire. But guns like the shotgun, Crockett, and grenado don't help you when you aim at all. So for guns like that, never aim. There are some guns like the water LMG or the P-Volver where sometimes you do aim and sometimes you don't, but that's dependent on how close the player is. A good rule of thumb is that if you don't think you have to aim, then don't. Tip number 3 is getting the good guns right off the bat. Way too often I'll see a player run into battle with a shotgun as their first pick, or pick a worse gun like the strawberry or the chili thrower. If you get a great gun off the bat, it'll give you a massive advantage over the whole match. Right off the bat you should be going for guns like the Crockett, the Snipergus, the LMG, or the P-Volver. All of these guns give you great long-range advantage over your opponents. This advantage will allow you to control the whole map and the objectives for the whole game. Tip number 4 is master the Crockett launcher. The Crockett launcher is by far the most powerful gun in the game, and that's the gun that everyone always tries to go for right off the bat. Not only does it quickly fire a projectile with a massive explosion radius, but it also has one special gift: the Crockett jump. Just like in many other games similar to Shotgun Farmers, you can perform a rocket jump that boosts you in the air. By looking down, jumping, and firing, you're knocked up in the air just as tall as the barn and countryside. Not only can you traverse the map easier this way, but you can also Crockett jump towards your opponents and fire from the air. This is where most of your kills with the Crockett are because it's a lot easier shooting down than shooting up with the Crockett. You can bounce yourself around the entire map and completely destroying everyone on the ground. Mastering the Crockett will help you greatly increase your kills per game. The next thing you want to get used to is shotgun jumping, similar to Crockett jumping. Now there are actually a couple guns that you can jump with, like the bead action rifle and the grenado launcher, but you usually only see people doing Crockett jumps and shotgun jumps. Now shotgun jumps aren't really effective during battle, but it can be a really great way to traverse and run away if you're taking too much fire. You won't have to do this too often, but a lot of people don't know about it, which can give you a big step up. You can use a shotgun jump to jump over fences or small objects that you can't get around by normally jumping. So if you're trying to get away from an opponent, shotgun jumping over a fence and running away is a beautiful strategy. But if you want to kill an opponent, you can jump over the fence to get to them, catching them off guard and getting a free kill. This strat is most effective with the fences and roadside, where you can shotgun jump over them easily and catch opponents off guard. I'm telling you, not a lot of people know about shotgun jumps. The next one would make you annoying, but it also makes you really powerful. Shotgun Farmers has a bunch of power-ups sprinkled across the map that gives you health, shield, or turns you invisible. You always want to be on full health, you always want to be on high shield, and you always want to be invisible. By constantly cycling the Moonshine, Milk, and Ghost Pepper, you're constantly giving yourself a massive advantage over everyone else. Not only can you get easy kills by being on high HP and being invisible, but you also stop other players from getting that advantage over you. Even if you're on pretty high health, like 98 HP or 95 shield, you always want to take the power up to stop anyone else who actually really needs it from getting it. One thing that I haven't mentioned so far is that Shotgun Farmers also has throwables. They're sprinkled across the map just as frequently as the regular weapons. You always want to have one on you just in case you have to quickly get away or to catch a player off guard. The Onionade is by far the best throwable because if you throw it on top of someone, they'll be caught in a poison gas cloud that quickly takes away damage as well as blinds them. If you're able to hit a player with an Onionade, they're left completely defenseless and don't know where to run away, and you can get a quick kill. Another grenade similar to the Onionade is the Lemonade, which does a lot less damage, so you probably can't get a kill just off a Lemonade, but it does completely blind them and allow you for a free kill. The Molotov cocktail comes from milking one of the purple cows, and it's just a basic fire that you can use to block doors, catch a player that's stuck somewhere, or scare someone off. The Pineapponade, or the PK2, which the game also calls it, is one of my favorite weapons because you have to time it perfectly. If you hold on to the pineapple pin too long, then it'll explode in your hand. Throw it too soon and the player can quickly get out of the way. But if you hold on to the pin just the right amount of time and chuck it, they'll explode right in their face and they'll have no time to get out of the way. It's definitely a grenade that takes a lot of skill to get used to the timing, but once you do, it's hilarious to get kills with. This next tip is mandatory to get better at the game, and that is memorize all the gun and power-up spawns across the map. Shotgun Farmers is a very quick-paced game, which means you're constantly going to be swapping guns, and you're constantly fighting players. So if you're running away and you have to get a gun, knowing where the next one is very important. If you're low on health, running to a shield or running to a moonshine is also very important. You'll memorize these spawns just by playing enough, but when any new map comes out, it's always important to play it a ton so that it's engraved into your memory. By memorizing these spawns, you can get out of quick situations by quickly pulling a gun out of your back, or by completely targeting the overpowered guns and controlling the whole game. The last basic trick is knowing how to use the cover in Shotgun Farmers. Now, Shotgun Farmers isn't the type of game where you're constantly camping behind walls. There isn't a lot of camping in the game in general because the movement just does not allow it. But if you're getting shot at and have no way of fighting back, hiding behind hay or a barn is a perfect way of draining your enemy's bullets. And if you're on the other side, never shoot at an opponent if they're not in the open, and don't necessarily rush an opponent if you have a gun like the LMG, which you have to charge up. That does it for basic tips. If you're new to the game, those should definitely help you out a ton, and I hope you have fun on the farm. For my more intermediate players, I have a ton of advanced tips that will take you from being good in pubs to being great in competitive games. Advanced tip number 1 is knowing openings on both sides of a map. Shotgun Farmers is a lot like chess in how you play the opening determines how the rest of the game is going to go. If you're able to catch them off guard and you get a good gun in the beginning, you can completely control the map and win the 1v1 with ease. Now, out of all of the maps, Team 2 usually has the best side, the best guns, and the best position over the other player. The exceptions to that are in Countryside, where in my opinion Team 1 is actually a little better, and in Forest Side, which isn't a competitive map at all. Although Team 2 is going to be your better side, you should still be able to play great on both sides by practicing your openings. Let's take Countryside for example. If you're in the Team 2 house spawn, you're going to have 3 guns that you're probably going to want to go for. A basic opening would be grabbing the P-Volver and then heading for the sniper by the cows. Similar to chess, an opponent can counter that by grabbing the LMG on the Team 1 spawn and mowing you down before you can even reach the sniper. You might grab a P-Volver, go up in the barn, drop down and try to grab the Crockett, but an opponent could already beat you there or be waiting on hangar with a sniper. Sometimes you'll have a clash immediately, or sometimes both players will go for the 2 snipers on the opposite side of the map. It's all about how the individual player plays, so you should get to know your opponent before you actually 1v1 them. Sometimes they'll do something so informal and so uncommon that it can actually catch you off guard and actually give them the advantage. Now, Countryside is a fairly balanced map, but with a map like Roadside, the 2 team spawns are completely different. Team 2 is so much better than Roadside that usually the worst player always gets Team 2. Team 2 has the Onionade, LMG, and Sniper spawn, some of the best weapons in the game, while Team 1 gets the P-Volver, the M6 Bean, and maybe the Grenado. Definitely great guns, but a lot harder to hit your shots than an LMG or a sniper. Now, the shield is on Team 1, but in competitive tournament games, you're not going to have the shield spawn there at all, making it useless. Whoever has Team 2 definitely has the advantage, but you shouldn't have to fall back on having Team 2 to be good on Roadside. By playing more 1v1s, you'll see how the different strats are and what the best one is to counter all of them. Tip number 2 is a lot more obvious: always stay moving. Now, Shotgun Farmers doesn't have competitive movements like sliding or slide cancels, but people do always zip around the map and strafe to avoid taking fire. Staying still means that you're a sitting target and you can easily be sniped. If you don't know where a player is, never stand still and look for them like if you're on top of a barn with a sniper and you're hard scoping, because that makes you an easy target and a free kill. You always want to be going left and right, just jimmying around in that general area, jumping up and down, just so that you can always avoid fire if someone plans on shooting at you. That brings me into tip 3, know when to jump. Jumping is a lot better if you're trying to avoid being shot at and you're running to another gun spawn, but you don't always want to be jumping when you're moving around. You actually run faster when you don't jump than if you run and jump. So if you want to beat someone to a spawn in the middle of the map, or you want to get a gun on your side and take a position which lets you control the map, you want to move fast. So in the beginning of a match, you don't want to be jumping around for no reason. You want to get a gun and you want to get a good position. Tip number 4, always stay on good HP. This calls back to one of my tips in the basic one, where you always want to be as high health as possible. And you always want to abuse all the health to make sure that your opponents can't get any. Because a body shot is a lot more impactful if they have nowhere else to heal. Making sure that they can heal is just another way of controlling the map. That brings me into tip number 5, destroying gun spawns. A lot of people don't know this, but if you shovel a gun spawn, the gun will actually break. So if there's a weapon you know that your opponent is really good at, you want to make sure that you break that weapon so that there's no way that they can use it during the match. Or if you got a kill on an opponent, you're controlling the map and you don't want them to get any guns and leave them completely defenseless with just a shotgun, breaking all the gun spawns in a map, especially if it's a small one like roadside, can be an incredibly effective way to make sure that they can't get any progress on you. That then leads me into tip number 6, control the map. There are locations on every map which people usually will sit at to make sure that they can see all around and get a good point. In roadside, this is often the truck. Countryside, this is either hangar or barn. Riverside, it's either one of the bridges or the main barn. Oceanside, it's usually the hotel or fins. Forestside, it's usually one of the cabins or by the onionade or lemonade spawn. Graveside, it's usually church. Or teleporter 1, meaning it's the team 1 teleporter spawn. On Moonside, it's the dome. On Darkside, it's the barn or by the sniper spawn. And on Westside, it's one of the many buildings which you can just get on the roof of. By picking a good spawn, you can control the whole map by seeing where the player may potentially spawn, trapping them in that location. Obviously, you don't want to stand on these spawns with just a shotgun, you want to be up there with a long-range weapon like an LMG, P-Volver, or Sniperagus. Or in Moonside's case, the radish gun. Tip number 7, run! Or don't rush for no reason. A bad habit that I have is I will usually rush into battle with just a shotgun and let them easily kill me, just because they have a bit of an advantage and I think it's going to be a free kill anyway. But if you have the disadvantage, you always want to run away. If you're on lower health, run away and go get a gun and go get heals. There's a lot of times where someone is chasing you, you can quickly get a gun, turn around, and get a quick kill. And you should always go for those instead of bum rushing them with a shovel and praying for the best. Tip number 8 is knowing when to pull your gun out. Like I said in the basic tips, you always want to have your shovel out, but if you pull your gun out too late, they'll already have theirs out and you won't even get the chance to shoot back. If you know they're around a corner, you always want to pull your gun out before so that you can fire immediately when you see them. Pulling out a gun takes a couple of seconds, which gives them a lot of time to aim and shoot. So if you know where your enemy is, or you think you know your enemy is, you always want to pull out your gun. Better safe than sorry. My next advice is watching old VODs or montages. By VODs, I mean one of the many unofficial Shotgun Farmers tourneys. Seeing these players actually competitively go up against each other can give you a really good idea about what to do. Obviously, me just telling you what to do won't give you a perfect idea, but once you actually see 1v1s play out, they can give you a lot of inspiration. I recommend watching my own Nene Cup, which the full VOD is on my channel, or one of the Moonshine tourneys. If not, watching older tourneys, just being in a VC while other people play also does perfectly fine. But just take advice and follow other better players. Playing against these players is also really great in shaping you to be better. This one is probably the most competitive tip yet, and that is wave dashing. Like I said, SF doesn't really have competitive movement, it's a very casual game. But wave dashing is very competitive, and pretty much no one knows how to do it besides the competitive players. By crouching a second after you harvest a gun, you actually get a little wave, a little boost. You can quickly zip away from a shot if someone's targeting you with a sniper, or if someone's chasing behind you with a shotgun. It can take a little bit of practice, but it isn't hard to do and it becomes very easy and engraved in your mind. The next tip is really dumb, but it's also important. It's strafing. If you're locked in with someone who has a sniper, flailing your mouse around and just jumping up and down is the best way to avoid it. Moving your head up and down while moving left and right creates a pattern of movement that's really hard to follow. It may look stupid and it's not the most polished, and maybe they can track you, but completely throwing them off your trail is very effective. Other movement strats like running and then quickly jolting back so that they waste ammo, stuff like that. It's kind of similar to the don't always stand still, be constantly moving and be constantly unpredictable. The next strat was recently found and changes how players use the water LMG. A really big drawback from the LMG is the large 3-second charge up before firing. The LMG is very effective, but if an enemy rushes you while you're charging up, you won't have any time to actually fire. Here's my friend Birdie, who is one of the best players in Shotgun Farmers, explaining how to do this trick.
So to do the water LMG strat, basically what you do is, first of all, you're going to want a water mill. But you're gonna get your shovel out, swing it and hold it, and then while you're still holding the trigger or your mouse button, switch back to the watermill, and it will actually just skip the kind of load time entirely almost, causing your enemy to actually be really confused when you're doing it in game. Now obviously I'm just playing against bots right now, so I mean they're kind of dumb no matter what, but playing like a 1v1 or even some team games and you're doing that, it will catch people off guard because usually it takes a couple seconds to actually load it up.
Doing this in pubs will completely stomp everyone who has no idea what you're doing and probably thinks that you're hacking. And the final trick is learning how to master your shovel. A thing with Shotgun Farmers is on other players' screens, if you turn too quickly, it doesn't actually show you turning. So if you very quickly do a 360, the player won't see that you turn at all. You can use this to your advantage when using the shovel. You want to get really good at being able to hit them and then run away backwards so that they can't hit you. But you also want to get really good at hitting them from behind. Pause. If you run kind of diagonal at a player, run past them, turn around and quickly shovel their back, and then keep running that direction, the player won't even realize that you've turned around and it'll look like they're completely cheating. You want to be able to hit them from the front and run away, and you want to be able to hit them from the back without them even realizing that you're attacking them. Sometimes if a player chases you into like a small barn, like the LMG barn with a Crockett, and they go through one of the doors, quickly running out and shoveling from behind when they have their Crockett out can completely catch them off guard and give you the kill. Mastering the shovel is definitely a very large part at 1v1s. This does it for my tips and tricks video. Hopefully this turns a lot of new players into intermediate players, and a lot of intermediate players into good pro players. Obviously, practice is perfect, so join a bunch of competitive discords and get in the competitive community if you actually want to majorly improve how you play. I started playing at the beginning of this year with way better people than me, and I've already graduated from C tier to high-ish B tier, so it does work. Obviously, I'm not the best player, definitely not. I'm pretty mediocre and competitive, but these are my tips that I've observed from other players, so they do work. Do know that hitting your shots is also a massive part of this, because if you miss a shot, they know where you are now. An actual competitive player can quickly turn around and snipe you with a P-Volver, or even an LMG, sniper, or maybe they pull an M6 out of their ass and get a kill anyway. I hope you guys did enjoy. Please go check out my code video if you haven't seen that. It gives you free items in Shotgun Farmers. I plan on doing another tutorial soon on how to beat the nightmare versions of Horde mode. Go subscribe to birdylmao, who was a feature in this video. He's masterful at the game and his channel is blowing up right now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and I will see you guys whenever I post next, probably in 3 weeks. Bye!